let us listen to Mischa Dohler on what's his plan on 5G for India.
My plan for 5G in India, well, I'd love to engage, particularly on the government side, because before we get out the technology, we need to change a lot on the regulation, on the legislation. 5G will mean a lot more base stations. How are you going to roll them out? You need a good backhaul. How do you make that economic? Maybe you can co-leverage that with other big infrastructure projects, which what I have advised the British government on. You need to change a little bit the way how you do the street furniture regulation, so the laws which govern on where you can put the base stations and how to put them. You need to change, of course, the law on how spectrum is actually being accessed. So quite a few fundamental changes are needed, and in the UK in the last 3 years we've been thinking about this a lot, we've been experimenting a lot, and of course I've just shown a working 5G system on stage with my performance.
Do you have, sir, any patents on 5G, or you're working on it?
So I haven't looked at patenting, and I can't really comment on this here, but if I had one wish list, is to make the whole telco system break apart a little bit, because if you think about it, you're a small startup, an SME, you want to start innovation within telecoms, you can't. It's just such a big bulky system, right? So only the big guys can do it, and that's why maybe the telco system hasn't evolved as quickly as we wish it would, right? So, and the reason is because all is packed together, so you don't see, for instance, Bill Gates, Microsoft, Cisco, and Facebook get together every 10 years and come up with a new generation of the internet, right? Because they are decoupled. Everybody innovates on their own space. So the telco industry needs to get to this space. We're getting there now. Software-defined networking, we're decoupling hardware with software. Once we're there, the system is broken apart, we can innovate inside, and that would be my recommendation. Atomize the system as much as you can.
We are seeing US-based systems on 5G. We are seeing Korean-based systems on 5G. We are seeing 5G Japan-based system on 5G. So how do you compare these systems with the UK system? What would be ideal for India kind of 5G system?
Right, so in terms of the vendor situation, the only system I have truly seen in terms of working are actually the European ones, Ericsson and to some degree Nokia, but mainly Ericsson, and it's a fully functioning 5G system. So just to test the air interface is one thing, but to have a fully functioning end-to-end system, I've only seen it actually from Ericsson. So they're quite advanced. Truth is that 5G will be much more than just that technology. We need a lot of glue, a lot of intelligence in the system, because it's a very heterogeneous system. How do we control that? So at King's College in London, we build all the artificial intelligence orchestrator, we call them. We have built a real-time software-defined networking slicing architecture. So we are building a lot of this stuff which are kind of glues in between to be able to have a 5G system which works together with 4G, with 3G, with 2G, with Wi-Fi, with satellite, with LoRa, with Sigfox. That's what we need to see. We need to get out of the silos. Let's have the whole ecosystem work together as one.
In terms of standards and in terms of pure commercial 5G, when do you see these systems being operational worldwide?
So we are now in the pre-5G era. The real first 5G will be standardized with release 15 and 3GPP, which is going to be summer 2018. We will have, of course, already pre-standard systems up and running. I think this time next year, we're going to have the first truly 5G standardized systems being deployed and tested. By 2019-20, we will have major cities and urban areas being instrumented with 5G. And by 2025, we will have countrywide coverage in most of the countries around the world.
What are the likely use cases of 5G that we can see for developing economies like India, developed economies like Japan and others, and underdeveloped economies?
So let's look at two elements. One is the consumer side and one is the business side. On the consumer side, of course, having 5G is great news because it means I have a much more immersive experience. I can watch maybe virtual reality stuff. I can play games in real time. I can watch my Netflix, very quickly, download stuff. So consumer will benefit, that's very clear. But 5G is very interesting because it's the first generation where industry actually would start to use it. And I've been seeing this since 2013. I was the one who was first time in a panel at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona said, guys, 5G will not only be about consumers, it will also be about industries because, delays have gone down to industry standards, 10 millisecond, 1 millisecond. Data rate has gone to industry standards, meaning, 10 gigabit per second, very reliable. Loads of IoT devices, you can connect trillions of these one day, right? So the industry woke up. And one thing we did consciously in London is say, hey, let's do top-down design. Let's go to industry, talk to them, ask them, what do you really need? Because the worst thing we could have is if we design 5G, in 2020 we go to the industry and said, sorry, we don't need this, okay? So what I'm doing is, I call it value creation. When the industry understands the value of the technology, they forget about the cost, okay? So we reached out to the healthcare. So we now work with robotic surgery. There's a lot of material online. If you go to Ericsson on my personal website, mischa.dohler.com, you will find that. Work with the transport sector, with Heathrow. We work with the performing arts world, right? Theaters, etc. So each of these silos loves the technology on their own. Important thing is not to design a technology which only works for transport or performing arts. I think 5G has the capability to be this horizontal glue which ties together all these industries and scales the economy in India and around the world.
We have not been listening much about UK 5G, pre-5G standards, but we have been listening more about the South Korean model or the Japan model or the US model. Why is it so? And how do you want to make the UK model more popular globally?
Good question, right? And it's an easy to answer. You will see in South Korea and in Japan, you will see a lot of the trials which are an operator and a vendor. So you see NTT Docomo, for instance, with Ericsson, or you see, a South Korean operator together with Huawei. Now, what is the world's first in the United Kingdom is within a few months, we're going to have a system which works across all these vendors. Very heterogeneous, 3 places. It's in Surrey, which is a rural area. We have Bristol, which is a medium-sized city, and London, which is where I'm deploying the system with my Center for Telecom Research, 100 people building the system. It's a dense urban environment. Now, we work with Ericsson, and others work with others, and we will be the first one to demonstrate an end-to-end call or video call or immersive virtual reality experience across different vendor equipment. World's first. We have another world's first in terms of technology, but you need to come to London to interview me when I have it installed on the roof.